The next topic is opening conversation. As we have discussed that the structure of conversation includes different stages, and the first and foremost stage is the opening of conversation. A conversation opener is an introduction used to begin a conversation. Now, it can be done in many ways. The idea is that you open a conversation with certain intentions. It could be any, maybe there's a small conversation that you would like to have, or maybe you would like to have a lengthy conversation. So, your opening would determine the kind of conversation that is to follow. Usually, the conversation starts with open ended questions, and these open ended questions have a tendency to further carry on the topic into a proper conversation. Now, con- opening or open ended questions could be: how was your weekend? Or it was amazing event last night or yesterday, and something like that. Now, these kinds of opening can lead into a proper discussion. But then you have closed ended questions, which can also serve the opening of any conversation, such as, it's a hot weather, isn't it? And it's close ended. Maybe you are expecting just one word response to that. Somebody would say yes, somebody would say no. So the opening consists of open ended as well as the closed ended questions. Now, there are the tips given with regard to how to start a conversation. They say believe that there are two ways to start a conversation, and there are only two types in terms of a person that you're speaking and the event that you are referring to. And there are two ways to go about it. One is maybe you are asking a question, or you are making a statement. When you are asking a question such as, would you lend me your pen? Or making a statement, for example, you enter a room and you see somebody watching a movie and you just make a comment just to start a conversation by saying, wow, what an interesting movie you are watching. It is one of my favorite movies, and so on. Different situations may call for different opener. For example, approaching a stranger on a street versus meeting them at a more structured gathering of people with like interests. So, your conversation and opening will vary situation to situation and also person to person. Now, we will look at some of the points related to the opening of conversation. Only one person speaks at a time. Now, conversations have been basically studied for some time by researchers and who are interested in looking at the language behavior, not only the language behavior, but also language acquisition and that acquisition in connection to social interaction. In the vast number of cases, it has been observed that speaking of a person at a time, that means only one person speaks at a time. Now, this does not mean that there are no times when two or more speakers are talking, but these times tend to be brief in most conversations. More precisely, it is simultaneous turns that rather simultaneous talking that is uncommon for listeners. Often say things like huh, and nod their heads while listening to speakers. Now, these are not attempts to speak, but merely identify that listener is following the speaker's train of thoughts. Because neither turn order nor turn length is decided ahead of time, it is not surprising that there is considerable individual variation in the number of turns a given speaker will take and the length of each turn. Now, Jeff and Feldstein report that the length of a particular speaker's turn was a stable individual characteristic. In contrast, the pause between vocalization during a speaker's turn tended to match the pauses of other participants in the conversation. While theoretically the number of possibilities for opening conversation is infinite, In practice, we do so in a limited number of ways. Most commonly, we address another person, for example, "Hey Carl, request information," that is, "Do you know what time it is?" Or offer information, that is, "Are you looking for someone?" Or use some form of stereotyped expression, that is, "Hello," or topic, such as "Strange weather lately, huh?" Now, these serve to get the listener's attention and often lead to very stereotypical, normal, or very regular replies. So, this quickly establishes the alternation of turns that is central to conversation. For example, A asks a question, B replies, followed by a sequence of the form A, B, A, B, A, B. Because these openers are so predictable, we can often anticipate a conversational response, and one can sometimes exaggerate the sense of predictabilities by forming the entire conversation. Conversation openers serve to get the listener's attention and often lead to very regular replies because there is anticipation involved in terms of the exchange of ideas. One knows what to answer, how to perceive other person's views, and respond accordingly. Like all texts, conversations have both the beginning and the end, and these are also signposted by the speakers.